Is Gustavo, and today I come to read Peter Pan in the Kensington Gardens book. Let's continue where we left the last week in the chapter 2, page 28. How many of your toes are tombs? Said Solomon a little cruelly, and Peter saw to his consternation that all his toes were fingers. The shock was so great that it drove away his cold. Rueful father, said the grim old Solomon, and Peter tried most desperately hard to ruffle his father's but he had none. Then he rose up quaking, and for the first time since he stood on the window ledge, he remembered a lady who had been very fond of him. "I think I shall go back to mother," he said timidly. "Goodbye," replied Solomon Cow with queer luck. "But Peter," he stated, "why don't you go?" The other asked politely. "I suppose," sighed huskily, "I suppose I can still fly." You see, he had lost faith. "Poor little half and half," said Solomon. Who was not really hard-hearted. You will be able to fly again. Not even on windy days. You must live here on the island always, and never even go to the Kensington Gardens." Peter asked tragically. "How could you get across?" said Solomon. He promised very keenly, however. "How could you get across?" said Solomon. He promised very cleanly, however, to teach Peter as many of the bird's ways could be learned by one of such an awkward shape. "Then I shan't be exactly human?" Peter asked. "No." "Nor exactly a bird?" "No." "What shall I be?" "You will be a betwixt and between," Solomon said, and certainly he was a wise old fellow, for that is exactly how it turned out. The birds on the island never got used to him. His oddities tickled them every day, as if they were quite new, though it was really the birds that were new. They came out of eggs daily, and laughed at him at once. Enough they soon flew to be humans, and other birds came out of other eggs, and so it went on forever. The crafty mother birds, when they tried of sitting on their eggs, used to get the young ones to break their shells a day before on the right time, with shivering to them that now was their chance to see Peter washing off, drinking, or eating. Two saints gathered round him daily to watch him do these things, just as you watch the peacocks, and they screamed with dealing when lifted the cross they flung him with his hands. His hands. Instead of in usual way with the mouth, All his food was brought to him from the gardens at Solomon's, altered by the birds. He would not eat worms or insects, which they bought very silly of him. So they brought him bread in their beaks. Thus when you cry out, greedy, greedy, to the bird that flies away with a big crust. You know now that you ought not to do this, for he is very likely taking it to Peter Pan. Peter wore no nightgown now. You see, the birds were always behind him from bits of it to line their nests with, and became very good-natured. He could not refuse, so by Solomon's advice he had hidden what was left of it. But though he was now quite naked, you must not think that he was cold or unhappy. He was usually very happy and gay, and he reasoned the was Solomon had kept the promise and taught his many of the bear's ways, to be easily pleased, for instance, and always to be really going sometime, and to think that whatever he was doing was a thing of the vast importance. Peter became very clever at helping the birds to build their nest. Soon the cow built better than wood pigeon, and nearly as well a blackbird. Though never died, he satisfied the finch, and he made nice little water troughs near the nest and dug up worms from the young ones with his fingers. He also became very learned in bird lore, and knew an east wind from a west wind by its smell, and key close shake the grasses, growing, and hear the insects walking about inside the tree trunks. But the best thing Solomon had done was to teach him to was. To teach him a glad here. All birds have glad ears unless you rob their nest. And so as they were the only kind of hair Solomon knew about, it was easy to him to teach Peter how to have one. Peter's heart was so glad that he felt he must sing all day long, just as the bird sings for joy. But being partly human, he needed an instrument, so he made a pipe of reeds, and he used it so to sit by the shore of the island of a evening, practicing the sound of the wind and the ripple of the water, and catching handfuls of the shine of the moon. And he put them all in his pipe and played them so beautifully that even the birds were deceived, and they will say to each other, "Was that fish leaping in the water, or was it Peter playing leaping fish on pipe?" And sometimes he played the birds of birds, and then the mothers would turn round in their nests to see whether and they had laying in an egg. If you are a child of the garden, you must know the chestnut tree. Share the bridge which comes out in flower first. All the chestnuts but perhaps you have no hairs with this tree leads the way. It is because Peter waited for summer and place that it has come, and the chestnut began so near him and he is cheated. But as Peter sat by the shore twinkling divinely on his pipe, he sometimes fell into sad thoughts, and then the music became sad also, and the reason of all this sadness was that he could not reach the gardens, thought he could seem tall the arch of the bridge. He knew he could never be a real human again, and scarcely wanted to be one. But oh, how he longed to play as other children play, and of course there is no such lovely place to play in as the gardens. The birds brought him news of how boys and girls played, and wistful tears started in Peter's eyes. Perhaps you wonder why he don't know swim. Of course, the reason was that he could not swim. He wanted to know to swim, but no one on the island knew the way except the ducks, and they are so stupid. They were quite willing to teach him, but all they could say about it was, "You sit down on the top of the water in this way, and then you quack, and then you kick off like that." Peter tried it often, but always before he could kick out the tank. What he really needed to know was how you sat on the water without sinking. And they said I was quite impossible to explain such an easy thing as that. Occasionally, swans touched on the islands, and he would give them all his day's food, and then ask them how they sat on the water. But as soon he had no more to give them to hateful things, he said like him sailed away. Once he really thought he had discovered of a way reaching the gardens, and wonderful white things like runaway newspaper floated his over the islands and the tumbled rolling over and over after the manner of a bird that has broken its wing. Peter was so frightened that he hid, but the birds told him it was only a cat, and what kid is, and that it must have stood its strength of the boy's hand, and threw away. After that they laughed at Peter for being so fond of the kid. He loved it so much that he even slept with one hand it, and I think this was pathetic and pretty. For reason he loved this was because he had longed to real boy. To the birds was a very poor reason, but the older ones felt grateful to him at this time because he had nursed a number of littlings taught the German measles, and Cave offered to show him how birds fly quiet. So 6 of the 10 took the end of the strings on their beaks and flew away with it, and how did amazement it flew after them and went even higher than they. Peter screamed out, "Do it again!" and with great good nature. They did several times, and always instantly thanking them he cried, "Do it again!" which shows that even now he had not quite forgotten what it was to be a boy, a lad with a grand desire burning with his bright heart. He began them to do it once more with him clinging to the tail, and 900 flew off with the string, and Peter clung to the tail, meaning to drop off when he was over the gardens. But the kid broke to pace and the airs, and he would have drowned in the serpentine had he not caught hold of to two indignant sounds and made them carry him to the islands. After this the bear says the wall help him no more in that enterprise. Nevertheless, Peter did reach the gardens as lad by the help of Shelley's boat, as I am now to tell you.